Hey everyone, it's Kent here from Plugins 4D. Today I'm going to take you through the update for Jet Fluids 0.06. So under Jet Fluids, create a new test scene. And the first thing you'll notice here is there's a level set solver. So now there's a separate object for each solver. Now if you want to add them, you can just click on scene and add them here, or you can come up to the menu and you can add them that way as well. Next thing you'll notice here is that we now have emitters as a tag. Previously they were objects, but now as a tag it makes it a bit easier to manage. You just put a tag on your object and it'll get picked up by the fluid. So this scene's ready to go. I can just click here and go start caching and it'll start simulating the fluid. And there's actually support in here also for animated emitters as well as colliders. And to show that, I'm also going to put them in a cloner because we now also support cloners and particle objects and array objects. So you can put your cloners, your objects under the array or under a cloner. And also, as I just mentioned before, as a particle emitter, you can also emit these and they will work correctly in your scene. So I'm just going to use a cloner for this one just to make something a little bit interesting. So I'm going to create a plane here and I'm going to make that plane 150 by 150, put it up here, and I want to drop that down kind of like rain. So I'm going to put this sphere up under the cloner. And I'm going to change the sphere size down to about 30. And just make sure that because I've pulled that sphere out of the scene, I need to make sure that the emitter is referencing that scene, and it is, so we're all good there. This emitter needs to be one shot. I just want one blob of water coming down, or sphere water coming down for every time one of these emitters is enabled. And we want that to work on this object as well. So I'm going to drag the plane into here, and I'm just going to leave it on surface. And I'm going to animate these from about there to 40. We'll have maybe that many drops. To make this a little bit more interesting, I'm just going to add some fluid at the bottom. I'm just going to put a cube down there, and I'll put an emitter tag on there as well. And I'm just going to drop that straight underneath the scene there. And now this should be good to go. I'm just going to grab this and go to this cache and click start. And I'm going to hide these spheres in the viewport, and I'm going to hide the cube as well. So this is now all the fluid, and those are our emitted spheres coming in and dropping down into the water. There's quite a lot of them there. I'm just going to stop that, and we can rewind and play that. This also works with enabling and disabling of emitters as well. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have a sphere in the scene about there, and I want to enable it at a particular point in time. So I'm going to start with it disabled, and then around frame 5 seconds, I'm going to enable it. You've seen that other sphere there because I didn't clear it. I can clear that out, and you'll see all the information go before. So now if I start my caching, it comes in at frame 5. Now you might want to emit multiple drops or a constant amount of fluid, and you can do that as well. So under the emitter, you can also now change to constant, and let's just see what happens there when we start simulating that. I'm just going to hide that sphere from the view as well. So at frame 5, it's enabled, and then you get a constant liquid pouring down into your scene. Just going to rewind that and clear it again. And you can also do shots every specific amount of frames. So I'm going to come under here and I'm going to go pulse. I'm going to pulse every 5 frames. I'm going to draw another or emit another blob of fluid. And I'm actually going to make these a little bit faster. So I'm going to tell it that I want it to have a custom velocity in the minus y direction at about 11. And we'll just run that as well. So what it's going to do is when the fluid is created, it puts an initial force, in this case a downward force, to give it a bit more momentum to make it look a little bit more interesting. And again, you can enable and disable that as well during using keyframes during the animation. So I'm going to stop that, and I just want to show that you can also change the direction by using a target object. So if I just grab an object here, put it out to the side. And I'm going to make that a bit smaller, just not for any real purpose other than so it's just visually smaller in my view here. And I'm going to use that to drive the direction of the fluid. So if I grab my sphere here, the emitter, I'm going to drag this one in as my target. You notice that then grays out. So it's going to be pointing from here straight to there. And that's where the fluid's going to go. Now we want this to be maybe a bit more obvious. So let's make it 30. And I'm going to click start caching on that. You'll see that it goes straight out towards that object. And let's make that a bit more as well. Maybe go much higher. And I'm going to move this. Now to move this, I'm actually going to change it using a vibrate tag. Let's go to vibrate tag. And I'm going to change the position. Maybe 300 by 300 by 300. And so if I was to do this, you'll see it moving. I want more movement than that. So let's just change the seed and see what we get. Change the frequency a little bit. That's okay for this purpose. Except I want it to be moving about from its origin. So I'm going to go 0, 0, 0. And make that 400. Just so it moves. So that's where it's going to go. So if I just start simulating that now, let's clear the cache and start. It's going to fire fluid wherever this is every 5 seconds. And as you can see here, this technique was used just to animate this fluid. Now there's one other option on the emitter there, and that was the inherit velocity. So if you've got an object that's moving quite quickly, perhaps you've used dynamics, then you can also inherit the velocity of that object itself, rather than setting a custom initial velocity. But you can inherit the velocity, and then you can additionally set a custom velocity on there as well. Okay, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a lot of fun with this latest update, and let me know if you have any problems.